Any health-related information on the following show provides general information only. Content presented on any show by any host or guest should not be substituted for a doctor's advice. Always consult your physician before beginning any new diet, exercise, or treatment program.
Hello, everyone. Are you ready to live an inspired and empowered life? Welcome to the Inspired and Empowered Living TV show on W4WN.com and Talk4TV.com. We are live on Tuesdays at 11 a.m. Eastern, and it's all about inspired and empowered living. Today, we will be talking about transforming your trauma, part 3. We'll continue where we left off last week and learn what trauma really is and how it affects you. Discover the essential keys of transforming your trauma so that you can live an inspired and empowered life. And we'll talk about the 3 principles on how to transform your trauma, how traumatic patterns keep showing up in your life now, and discover the number 1 mistake that keeps you from a life you love. Ask your questions and make your comments in the chat room. Together, let's create a life you love. I'm your host, Nanci Deutsch, licensed clinical social worker and certified hypnotherapist, intuitive breakthrough expert. And I combine my counseling, coaching, and intuitive abilities to help you transform your life and live an inspired and empowered life. This show is not a replacement for therapy or counseling and is for educational purposes only. I want to welcome you and welcome those of you in the chat room. Thank you. Good morning, Marie. Good morning, Sandy. Good morning, gorgeous human. Thank you. So let's talk about what trauma is. What is trauma? And I'm going to review the last couple of weeks so that you're caught up if you're just tuning in. And what trauma is, according to the website, camh.c. So all my Canadian friends, thank you. And trauma is the lasting response from living through a distressful event. Experiencing a traumatic event can harm a person's sense of safety, sense of self, and the ability to regulate emotions and navigate relationships. Long after the event occurs, people with trauma can often feel shame, helplessness, powerlessness, and intense fear. So I will just let you know that I very often have worked with many clients that they have something happening in their life now, and they're wondering, why are they reacting so intensely to it? And it's because they have had past trauma in their childhood. And that energy of the trauma being replayed is really, sometimes it's exploding in their life, and sometimes it's just totally bringing them down. Now, I know from personal experience, because I grew up with a lot of trauma. I've had anxiety, depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, and I know what it's like to have that trauma and to live with that trauma. I remember way back when I was really in the depths of processing a lot of the trauma, I would wake up and there would be intense fear throughout my body. And I could feel the fear as soon as I woke up in the morning, and I was like, oh, I don't want to get out of bed. But I made myself get out of bed, and I worked on myself, and I continued. Because here's the thing. I want you to know that trauma, your trauma, can be healed. It is possible. So whether you're experiencing anxiety, depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, know that you can heal your trauma. And whether that trauma is from abuse, physical, emotional, sexual, even religious, or whether it's from grief, because grief can create trauma. And when you lose a loved one, you can go into a traumatic reaction. It is an intense experience. And I've had many families and many clients that I've worked with where they have had the grief and they didn't even realize it. They shut down. And then years later, I'm working with them. For example, and I've talked about this client. And so I'll call her Emma right now. And Emma was, when she was a teenager, her brother had passed. And when she came to me, she was really shut down in the I don't knows. I don't know. So if you're saying I don't know a lot, and this is something, and this goes into something that I'll be talking about. If you're saying that I don't knows a lot, that means that you're shut down, that you're in shock around what's either going on or you're having a hard time feeling. And when we worked on that, Emma, what happened was she was able, we traced it back to the death of our brother and how the whole family shut down. And then we started helping her feel her grief. And now she feels her feelings. Sometimes she may not always want to. Look, we are feeling creatures. We're human beings. But the positive thing is that we can learn to transform those feelings. And that's all about transforming the trauma. And that you can transform yourself by taking inspired action. And so I'm going to go through my 3 A's, which is actually the first principle that I talked about a couple of weeks ago. And the 3 A's is awareness. Now, first of all, you have to have the awareness that you have had trauma. Now, Emma, taking Emma, for example, she didn't even know, one, she didn't know how shut down she was. She just knew she was numb and she wasn't feeling. And then she also didn't realize the source of the trauma, the source of the pain, and a lot of her shutdown. And once she started having the awareness, then she was able to take the actions to help her, to help herself, so that now she's allowing herself to feel. And my motto, in order to heal, you need to feel. So it's important to feel. And the second A is acknowledging. It's acknowledging the feelings, not feelings. Just cut off the last part of the word. Acknowledging your feelings and acknowledging trauma, acknowledging what's going on for you, and really acknowledging that things have happened so that you can work on healing it. It's the next step after awareness is the acknowledgement. And then the third A is the acceptance and compassion. Acceptance and compassion is the third A. A and C, we skip the B, but that's the third part of principle 1, because it's really about learning how to accept ourselves, accept all our feelings, and not beat ourselves up if we're having a bad day or you're in feelings, and you need sometimes to allow yourself to move through it. and know that you're human and that it's okay. Feelings is part of the healing process. So it's all okay. Now, principle number 2 is all about clearing, and clearing on the daily level and clearing on the deeper level. Because if you're experiencing your trauma, you're going to need to do daily clearing to lift yourself up, to elevate yourself, to be able to feel and function if you're feeling caught in the trauma, or if an event is triggering the trauma. You're going to need to do the daily clearing to help lift yourself up so that you're feeling more positive and you're feeling ready to start the day. I like to say, start the day in a positive way. So that would be like doing meditation or emotional freedom technique, or doing some kind of healing technique. It could be exercise, could be going out in nature. It's finding the ways that work for you. And then there's the deeper clearing. And the deeper clearing is also essential. And it's clearing the trauma on those deeper levels. And tools such as hypnosis and tools such as again, EFT, you can use something called neurolinguistics program, body-centered work. Those are all the tools that I use when I'm working with clients to help them heal on those deeper levels. Very important. So if any of you'd like to share in the chat, how do you do healing on the deeper levels? What do you do to help you to transform your trauma? And then the third principle, which is what we're going to be talking about today, is connection. It's all about connection, because the bottom line is when you connect with yourself on the deeper levels, you gain the strength within to be able to feel that you can overcome the trauma, overcome the obstacles to keep moving forward. And so connection is on many levels. There's connection with our bodies and really honoring our body and really feeling what our body needs. We need good nutrition and a good night's sleep. And we need to be able to listen to our bodies. I talk a lot about intuition. And intuition is when we're aligned, our body and mind and our spirit, our head and our heart, all in alignment. And then you can feel your gut. Your gut is speaking to you all the time. But if you're not connected with your body, you can miss those gut feelings. And they have called the gut the second brain. In fact, there are more chemicals, neurotransmitter chemicals in the gut, and that goes through the whole body and into the brain. So the gut is crucial. And if you're not connected, then you will miss those gut feelings, your gut instincts. And we all have them. And Sandy says, cry a lot. Then each time it seems less and less that I can talk about my experience without feeling the emotional distress. Thank you so much, Sandy. That is so on target and so on point. Because like I said, in order to clear, because we were going back to clearing the energy, because also in order to make the deeper connection, you need to clear. You need to clear the clogs to make the deeper connection. Because if needing to feel emotions and you're not feeling them, you may be disconnected from your body, your mind, your emotions, and your spirit. So feeling is healing. See, there's that motto. And when you do that deep, deep healing, crying and allowing those emotions out, it really clears the energy. It clears your energy so that you can wake up the next day and feel better and feel like and start a brand new day. Imagine the sunrise and that each new day is a new beginning. And so when you allow yourself to have one of those down days where you're crying and crying, because you're letting out that old energy, you're letting out the energy of the trauma. And I'm just going to bottom line it. When we have had trauma, there is grief. There is grief around innocence, a loss of innocence, or there is grief around losing someone or something, or there is grief around so many different aspects of that energy of trauma. And it's important to allow yourself to move through the process of grief when you're transforming your trauma. So, again, thank you, Sandy. And Marie says, I clear it out by writing it out. Journaling is huge for me, ranting or otherwise. Thank you, Marie. And again, journaling is a huge way, an amazing way to clear out the energy. Now, you notice that Marie said, she said that she ranted and cry, and you can cry or express, but allowing yourself to journal and allow those emotions to flow as you're journaling is really huge. So again, it's allowing the emotions to flow. Feeling is healing. So whether you're crying, and she did say ranting, now ranting is also okay. The way that I say is you can rant as long as you are not hurting yourself, not hurting the environment, and you're not hurting anybody else. So rant away. Sometimes what I do is I twist a towel. I scream into a pillow. Sometimes I just scream if there's nobody else around. Go into your car and scream. Just allow yourself to express in a healthy way. Let the energy out. Let the feelings flow. All of that is part of the clearing process. Now, going back to connecting. See, really, you need the clearing in order to connect. Because, like I said just a few minutes ago, when you're clogged up with emotions, you will have a trouble connecting. So, I'm going to use my pipeline analogy. If you imagine that you are a pipeline to and from the divine, and the energy of inspiration, the energy of empowerment, the energy of what you want to manifest, the energy of intuition, all of that is there for you when you connect. However, when you have the limiting beliefs and emotions, it's like big hairballs in your pipeline. Now, clients have called me spiritual Drano, and I clear the clogs. So it's about finding your tools and your way to clear the clogs. Because when you clear the clogs, then you can make the deeper connection. So connecting more deeply, meditating, and allowing yourself to feel your connection to the higher aspects of yourself, whether it's your higher self, which is your unconditionally loving part of you, or it could be your soul or your source energy. You want to make that deeper connection to yourself. And so you want to clear the clogs to make the connection. Now, prayer is another way to make that connection and allowing yourself to make those deeper connections. So I'd love to hear from those of you in the chat. How do you make that deeper connection? What are the things you do? What are the tools that you do that you'd like to share with everyone about how you make that deeper connection? I know for me, I love meditation in the morning. And so I do my meditation. Sometimes I'll do journaling and writing. Sometimes I will do emotional release. It depends on what I need. And you really need to be tuning in to the things that will support you in what you need to make the deeper connection, because you want to make the connection to move you forward, to move you forward. And there is a prayer that one of my clients use. Well, not one of my clients. It's actually a prayer that was written by Reinhold Niebuhr. And this prayer is called the Serenity Prayer. And I know 12-step programs use it. It is a powerful prayer, and it's something that Reinhold Niebuhr created. And I know I love this prayer because it is so true. The prayer, the Serenity Prayer, for those of you who may not know it or you want to remember it, it's God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. The Serenity Prayer by Reinhold Niebuhr. And I have clients that use it. Excuse me. And we need to be able to go to prayer. And I will also tell you, Marianne Williamson, there was a book that she wrote called Illuminata. And it is a book about this big, for those of you who are viewing, I would say about an inch or inch and a half thick, of prayers. I don't know if it's still being published, but it's a great book. And you can find books on prayer, anything that resonates with you. Write your own prayer. Allow yourself to just let it flow when you're in one of those flowy spaces so that you can use it when you're not in the flow. Excuse me. Sandy, what do you say? I pray several times a day, then get quiet and listen. Ah, that's beautiful. Thank you. Praying is huge. It's because I've heard this before. Meditation is listening and prayer is asking. And we need to do both. And when we're making the deeper connection, both of those are essential. You're asking with prayer, and then you need to listen, just like Sandy pointed out. It's both important. Excuse me. Marie says, I have God on speed dial. We are connected. I pray every morning and whenever I need to. Love it. Prayer, prayer, prayer. Definitely do that prayer. Sandy says, God on speed dial. Love that. Excellent. God on speed dial. That's right. Remember, imagine you're pressing the button, calling God, and know that asking for that help. And that's really an important point. And I really want to make the point of asking. Asking is allowing yourself to really ask for the help, the support. God, your angels, your loved ones on the other side, your spirit guides, they are there for the asking. But if you don't ask, because we have free will, which means we need to ask in order for us to receive the help, the support, the guidance. And it is there for you. And I want you to know Please, please ask, because the universe has your back and the universe wants to help you. And you need to remember, see, that's where this awareness comes in, and acknowledging that you need help. We are all in this together. We need the support system on the planet, and we need the support system in spirit. And what I call it is our spiritual support system. And so, calling on your spiritual support system, whoever that is. And if you don't even know who that is, maybe you just feel like there's an energy. Maybe you feel like it's light. Maybe you don't have a vision of any beings or a sense of any beings around. It's all okay. You don't even need to. It's learning to ask. So please, please, please ask. So thank you for that in the chat. And you can find out more about the things that I do. And you can even watch past shows or listen to past shows on nancid.me. That's NANCID.me. Again, NANCID.me. Nanci with an I, D.me. So thank you. Thank you for joining us. Marie says, spiritual support team. She loves that. Yep. Call. See, you don't even have to know who the spiritual support team is. Just call on your spiritual support team, and they're there for you. That's about connection. And then it's about connecting. So you want to connect with your spiritual support team. And you want to find connections on the planet. Now, you may need to reach out for help and support. If you have a lot of trauma, I want you to know it's okay to reach out for support. It's okay to reach out for therapy or counseling or coaching or healing work. Reaching out for support is a strength, not a weakness. And I know that I couldn't be where I am if I didn't have an amazing support team, an amazing group of beings on the planet, an amazing group of beings on the other side, my spiritual support team. But I really need my physical support team. All my friends and loved ones, my family, having your physical support team is crucial. And if you're feeling alone, please reach out for support, especially when you're dealing with trauma. You probably will need counseling or therapy to heal that trauma on a deeper level. I know that I couldn't have done it without really going deep in processing my trauma. And even with all the work that I have done, the trauma still comes up. Because what happens is your life events of today, even COVID, and even though COVID is a lot behind us, and yes, people are still getting COVID, but it's not the scary thing that it once was. But you may still have traumatic reactions around it. Or you may have other trauma that you didn't even know or realize. So whatever you're going through now, if you're having a hard time, if you're feeling depressed or anxious, or maybe even PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, and the way that you know that you're experiencing that, is there a change in your eating habits, a change in your sleeping? Are you having flashbacks or memories? I will tell you that this week, actually, it's the last week in October, if you're listening at a later date. And this was the week that Superstorm Sandy hit. And so that there may be people, many people, that are still experiencing trauma from that storm. And I know that that could be coming up. I know that it was coming up for me and that I needed to process it. And I'm going to say that I'm totally over it. I lost my home in the storm. My cat passed after that. So it was a big traumatic event. So, and whether you've been in a hurricane, that maybe it was Katrina or even Ian in Florida, I mean, there are so many natural disasters that have happened that can also create the trauma. So no, and it can bring up trauma from your childhood. So no, there is help out there. Reach out for help and support. And then there is coaching. And the way that I distinguish between counseling and coaching, because I do both, is when you're needing counseling, it's because the past trauma is keeping you, like you're having really trouble coping day to day. You're not functioning, you're struggling to cope. You need new coping skills. That's when you need counseling and therapy. Whereas when you're coping and you're moving forward, or you may not be moving forward, maybe you're feeling stuck and you really want to move forward, but you need a support system. You need a support person to move forward. Then you want coaching. And you may still need to clear out pieces of the trauma, but you're really committed to make steps to the next level. Then you need coaching. So that's how I describe the difference between them. And it's a really important distinction because sometimes people get confused. Whether do I need counseling? Do I need coaching? So I support you. Whatever it is you need, please reach out. Reach out for support. Right now, most of the work I'm doing is coaching and coaching women to make their business, move their business to the next level. So if you're one of those women who wants to go to the next level, definitely contact me. And you can go to my website, you can email me, or comment in YouTube or wherever on Facebook. I would love to hear from you and hear how I can support you. So going back to connection, connecting. And when you learn how to make that deeper connection with yourself, now what else? Because I talked about connection with the body, talked about spiritual connection. See, I skipped over our mind and emotions. Now, I talked a lot about connecting with the emotions. Feeling is healing. And I may say that again and again and again and again, because in order to make the deeper connections to spirit, because spirit can bring us forward, give us the courage, the strength, and really help us become inspired and empowered. You need to feel the feelings. And connecting with your feelings is really important. Now, if you're in shutdown, like I was talking about with Emma, if you're in feeling numb or shut down, it's also called shock, emotional shock. And it's learning to find, maybe reaching out for support, or and also other ways to get support or support groups, 12-step programs, bereavement support groups, divorce and separated support groups based on the issue that you're dealing with. There are many different kinds of support groups, and now more in-person groups and online groups. So find a support group if you need that support as well. Clearing and just being able to make that connection. If you're in shutdown, it's part of your safety mechanism to help you to move through it. I know that, talking about Hurricane Sandy, Superstorm Sandy, when I was in it, I had fear, But I was rising to the occasion. I had to not only take care of myself, but I also was taking care of my elderly parents. I lived in Long Beach, New York at that time, and my parents were still alive, and they also lived in Long Beach. My brothers were on in the city, Manhattan, and also in Long Island, but Long Beach was cut off from any kind of communication. Cell phones weren't working. It was declared a disaster area. So I knew that once the water has subsided in my apartment, I needed to find out if my parents were okay. And so I went to my parents and I supported them and I helped them and I did whatever I needed to do. And my guidance, my intuition guided me every step of the way through that experience. That's the power of intuition and being connected, because your guidance can support you and guide you. And so I remember I'll share one miracle with you that was total, like it still amazes me. Like I get in awe when I think about this miracle. So I knew my guidance was get your cars out of Long Beach. I knew I needed to get the cars out of Long Beach. I was being guided to stay, maybe because my parents, whatever it was, I knew that I needed to stay, but I got to get my car. So my father and I got the cars out of Long Beach before the storm hit. And after the storm, they were in a town that was not hit, but we had to get them. They were at the train station. And so I had to get there. And so I walked to the train station, and there was one taxi cab that wasn't hit by the storm. One person who was covering the whole area. And I got there at the train station at the exact time that he happened to be coming back to the station. And he took me to get one of the cars. And I ended up using both of them. But that's the kind of miracles that can happen when you're connected. The kind of miracles that unfold to keep you and help you have that inspired and empowered life. And the miracles, when we're connected and we open to that expansive energy of the miracle zone, magic and miracles, I love that. And when you open to that energy, then you do not know what possibilities. And sometimes you need to surrender if you're really feeling challenged by life events and experience. It's about surrendering to your higher power, to God, to the universe, to your angels, guides, whatever you choose to call it, to the light. Surrendering and working on making that deeper connection. Now, how do you know that you've made the connection? You know that you've made the connection when you're feeling an energy shift. When you are feeling, if you're feeling sad or mad or fearful or numb, and then all of a sudden you do your energy work, you're clearing and connecting, and then you can feel the energy of peace, of love, of joy. Those are the energies of the higher vibration. Then you know you've connected to the higher parts of you, your higher self, your soul, the universe. You may get guided. Maybe you get guided to do cards. That's what I do sometimes. I love my oracle cards. So if any of you would like to share, what is your favorite way to shift your energy to make that deeper connection? So you can share. I'd love to hear from you. And know that you have what it takes. You have your ability to make that connection. It's for all of us. We all have that ability, but it's being able to say, I need to do this and I need to find a way to do this. And Marie says, so important to know you are not alone, and so very important to really feel it. Thank you, Marie. We need to know, you need to know that you are not alone. And that's the truth. There is a superstition where when you sneeze, it means it's the truth. I don't know if you've ever heard that before, but it's so interesting that I sneezed on that. And so the universe wants you to know, whether you call it God or light or your angels or whatever you do, whether it's the higher parts of you, you are not alone. You are connected to something greater than yourself. And so when you feel most alone, what I will say is that you've disconnected from yourself and you've disconnected from the higher parts of you and higher power. And so your job and your task is to find the ways to reconnect. So that's your assignment, finding the ways to reconnect so that you can transform the energy of your trauma into the success of today and tomorrow. Because I want you to know that your trauma is what I really believe, that when we've had trauma, it is here not only for our learning, but for others. Because as you learn to transform your trauma, you can become a role model, a teacher, a healer, a leader, and you can make a difference in other people's lives. And I know Sandy had a comment. Nanci, it would be super fun if you were to start pulling archangel cards on the show. Just a fun thought. And Sandy says, bless you. I guess that was for the sneeze. You know what? I'll tell you what. I will start next week. I'll start. And I also want to remind you, you can also come on Mondays to my Facebook group where I pull cards every week on Mondays at 2 p.m. Eastern to be able for you. So the group is called Uplevel Your Intuition, Income, and Impact Facebook group. And I pull cards every week. And it's also on my channel. And you can tune in and find out what card. But you know what? I'm open to it. I'm not feeling it today, but I am open to pulling cards when spirit is guiding. And I think Sandy, so next week, tune in to the archangel that wants to speak to us today, or what that wants to speak to us. And you never know what other kind of communication will come through with spirit. I'm open to all possibilities. And Marie says, I shift my energy through meditation. It's amazing how it lifts me up. Thank you, Marie. So, yes, meditation is key. Now, if you're a person who doesn't know how to meditate, guided meditation is a great way to start. Meditation is our connection, is helping us with our connection to the higher power, the higher power within us. So, tune in next week. I'll be starting to talk even more about emotional intelligence. Excuse me. I got to take another sip. Allergies. So next week, we have a few things on planned. I will pick an archangel card next week, find out what the archangels want you to know. And we'll also be talking about emotional intelligence. And tune in next week for more inspired and empowered living. We're live. We are live Tuesdays at 11 a.m. Eastern on W4WN.com, Talk4TV.com, and you can listen to the podcasts on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Pandora, Apple, and many others. And I wish you an inspired and empowered day and an inspired and empowered week. Have a great one, everybody. Bye for now.